Welcome to the Learn, Grow, Teach, Parent podcast. Okay, so welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Today I'm with Sandy Valdes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
She is a friend, obviously someone that I've known for a while, and she is a teacher. We'll tell you a little bit about her story. But what I thought was very interesting about what was unique about her perspective, as you will be able to tell during our conversation, is that she's been in education for a very long time, but she's a bit of an outlier in the way that I'm an outlier, being an older gentleman teaching these very young babies. I'm in early childhood education. She is in the high school realm at a very prestigious high school. I call it prestigious. But Sandy, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you teach and just your journey, how long you've been there, things like that.
I actually teach at a very an amazing school. It's Christopher Columbus High School. It's an all boys Catholic school, and I started there 29 years ago. I teach science. I've taught all sorts of sciences. I started there teaching earth science back in the day when earth science existed, and then taught physical science. And then I took my earth science and actually plucked out marine, because marine was part, oceanography, marine was part of that. And started the class as a half semester and ended changing it to a 1 year. So ended up also teaching for all these years marine bio. Actually, is the first year I don't teach it. Um, I've also taught chem, AP environment, regular environment, and now just having environmental science. And I teach an SLS class, actually, a very interesting class. It's called Strategies for Success, helping seniors and seniors transition from high school to college, what college life is like. We talk about emotional IQs, diversity, goals, setting goals, and managing time. So it's a really good sort of like a life course class for juniors and seniors.
I can imagine, first of all, this is fascinating because you're at an all boys school and
Yes.
you have been a teacher there for 29 years. That is fascinating in and of itself.
Yes.
And just the way that you've evolved your curriculum has got to be fantastic. I mean, if I recall from Christopher Columbus, now I'm an all-time Miami guy. I know Christopher Columbus. I've always thought of it as a religious school, maybe not a parochial school. I guess it's put together by some brothers. Do they call themselves the Marist? Is that
They're
what it's called?
Marist brothers. That's exactly correct. An amazing group of Marist brothers, I should say. I was talking about them the other day, actually, because I was saying how lucky I was to start with them 29 years ago. Why? Because the school was pretty much full of brothers at the time. And they taught, they were teachers, they've been administrators, you name it, they've done it. And I was able to have a lot of them with me at the time. And as the years have gone by, we've had them, pass away and retire. And so we have less of the brothers. But I love working with them. They're just an amazing group. Super, not only intelligent, and knowing whatever it is that they're teaching or doing, but they're all about acceptance and family, treating us like family. We are family for them. And opening their school to us and allowing us to really be a very tight work. One of the most important things about Columbus, I think, in the secret sauce, because everybody always asks about Columbus's secret sauce, is the faculty truly loves each other. We're very tight with each other. And that really, the foundation of that comes from the brothers.
That's amazing. I mean, it shows that at the basis of this is a deep respect for
Yes.
not what you're doing, but for what you're doing as a person. So they take the real aspect of value and translate it to the whole person. And so suddenly the kids get to see that. Now the boys get to see that. It's got to be super interesting. You got to tell me a little bit about what's it like to teach all boys.
I love it, actually. It's challenging. I started 29 years ago. I think I was 26. Didn't have the gray hairs. And I think the challenging part, um, and I think everybody that I work with that's a woman will say it. Being a woman in an all boys class is not the easiest of things. They will test you and they will try all sorts of things. I think as the years pass and your reputation follows you, and more importantly that they start to trust you, then it changes and it shifts and you start to build these really amazing relationships. I've had relationships with some of these men that are men now, and they come back and they always, it's family again. It's a brotherhood that they transfer specifically to. So at first they give you a hard time because you're a woman, but once they don't give you a hard time and you're a woman in an all boys, there's this relationship that's very special because they respect you and they trust you, and they always come back. They always come back to talk to you. And so you see them transform. You see these boys turn into men, and then 20 years later they have their family and they have their kids, and they're coming back to see you. And it's just, I can't, I don't know that I have words to express how grateful I am to have them, because they've taught me so much throughout the years. So
You,
it's great. I love it. I
absolutely, it shows. It
Yeah.
shows that you love it, and it shows that that you made a connection. You make a connection to each class, and
Yes.
it lingers. It stays because it's deep. It isn't just, oh, I've matriculated X amount of students in almost 30 years of teaching. It's you've made personal connections,
Yeah.
and really you're responsible for developing men. And do
Yep.
you find yourself in a unique position of being a woman developing men in education? I mean, that's so unique that you have that opportunity at all.
It's
Do you
it's
agree?
hu- it's huge. It's huge. First of all, it's a big responsibility, because I do feel that I am a big part of what kind of man do I want out there, right? What kind of, I want a man that is good. I want a man that is kind, that's vulnerable, that has all these feelings that society obviously. Oop, hold on, Mark, I lost you.
You're okay. I can see you still.
Yes. Oh, I found you.
There it
Um,
is.
I'm sorry. I If society's always telling boys that they shouldn't have these feelings and shouldn't be anything of any type of feeling. And so I always feel responsible to give the boys a safe space, right? If they heard me right now, they would be like, "Miss, I'm not a boy, I'm a man." And I say boys and I always tell them, I say boys in the most respectful way, right?
Right,
Because
of course.
because um and I always explain to them there's so much to really calling yourself a man, right? And so part of that is having feelings and not being in fear of what others are going to think, because you feel and because you share your feelings and you communicate your feelings. So I think that I think it's special that I get to have all boys, but I also think it's special that they get to have a woman teacher,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. This
So
is.
it's that yin yang, right? It's
Mhm.
it's that it's the ability to have that feminine and masculine energy in balance, and teaching them that we all have that. And I feel responsible. I feel a big responsibility that when my boys leave my class, that I've offered them a safe space for that, and that they know that, we're supporting them on that, so that they can go out there and be this husband that communicates and relays emotions, and a father that kisses his kids, and all those beautiful things that men should be, right?
Yeah, I guess you're the value system that starts off uh, bringing in someone. They start in middle school, or do they start in high
They
school?
start high school. It's ninth through 12th.
Ninth. Well, in
Yes,
my day, ninth grade was still middle school, and I feel
exactly.
that ninth graders are still they're very young. They're emotionally they're not. I don't think I've ever made the transition to believe that a ninth grader is a high schooler, but
I
that's
agree.
semantics. That's
Yeah,
semantics, right?
exactly.
Let's say you have
Exactly.
a student, and that student is young. They're ninth graders, and you get a chance to they get a chance to watch you not just teach their peers and themselves, but the classes that precede. That now they're 10th graders or 11th graders, new ninth graders come in. They're there for those 4 years, and
Right.
they have an opportunity to see what it's like uh, in the way that you are consistent. Because that's really what I'm hearing from you is that you've learned to be consistent in your goals, and so they appreciate that because it's not a wishy-washy answer that changes with whatever culture is downstream. It's rooted in a value system that you want to recreate. Now you're
Yes,
teaching.
and I think the
Yeah,
brothers do that too. I think the brothers, that is one of the things that I love about them, is there is a root consistency there,
right,
right? There's the consistency of everybody belongs. There's the consistency of you are loved no matter what kind of student you are. You're accepted. And we're going to figure it out, right? And there's that consistency. And you're right, I try to be as consistent as possible in my class. um I think that's important. I think that's how you trust somebody, right? Because someone
right.
is
No,
consistent.
yes, yeah. Building relationships with young men is difficult because by nature there's a sense of that they have to be skeptical about these things. They have to somehow, and maybe you can call it a wall. Maybe you can just call it, that life treats men very hard, especially when they're young, because their value is blossoming, and during that time, they make mistakes, and they really don't live up to archetypal, what someone would consider archetypal men. And of course, they have these really great examples in their lives because what I found is that the families that gravitate towards choosing Christopher Columbus as a school, they have a set of values. Like you said, family is at the root of it. But family for them means marriage, and it means children, and it means fatherhood as well as these other things. And so their ability to create a and become a pathway to that fatherhood is laden with the seeds that you drop during those times, because really at ninth grade they're mini men, they're becoming men, and if you treat them like boys they'll be boys, but if you treat them like men
Absolutely.
they'll be open and blossom and be amazing. Now,
And you see it, the transformation is incredible from a freshman to, I mean, even my guys that I have, let's say, sophomore year, and a lot of times because of Marine, I would have them twice. So I would have them 1 year, and then I would have them senior year somewhere down the line. And the transformation is in 1 year is just, it's
wow,
incredible. It's incredible. So
are you the only woman that teaches there?
no, when it's funny because when I started at Columbus, there weren't that many. I think we were maybe 18, maybe not even. I don't even think we reached 18. And now there's so many more. So many, so we I don't know the exact number of women that work now, but we've grown so much also. I mean, Columbus has grown so much in the last 2 years, exponentially. I mean, it's just, so many kids have come in. We're so grateful for that. And so we have more faculty members than we've ever had. So,
What
but we
is
have,
the size of the what's the size of the high school? How many students?
I think we're up to, I don't remember now. Let me look it up actually. I think we're like up to, I want to say 1,500.
Yeah, that's a pretty big school for
Yeah.
only 4 grades.
Yeah.
And you have a vast curriculum that covers not just the arts and sciences and the STEM
Yeah.
studies, but do you also you have a
Yeah.
robust
We have
athletic
honor.
department?
Oh my gosh, so much so. Whether it's football or baseball, track and field, we've gone to state. We've won state so many times. Yeah, we're one of the top athletic schools right now as well. And so
And
many of football players and baseball players have become professional players
You
as
guys
well.
have a sister school that's next to you.
Yes. Well,
Is
we
that
have
St. Brendan's?
St. Brendan, which is next to us. And then as far as the sister school, Lourdes would be considered a sister school. The
Oh,
girls,
okay, yes.
yeah, do a lot of work with us. We do a lot of things different, whether it's a dance or whether it's something, we're always working, we're always collaborating with them.
How much does religion play a part in their education?
I think it's the core of their education.
Mm-hmm.
It's the core. Our mission is to make Jesus known and loved, and to make sure that all our students not only know him and feel loved by him, but I think our mission more than anything else is to make sure that every student knows they're loved,
Wow,
right?
that's a
Because
beautiful thing.
well, it's run by the Marist brothers. Is run by Marcelin Champagnat, who believe that his whole entire mission, his foundation of the mission was to make sure that all of the children are loved.
Wow.
Plain and
They
simple.
That's been carried forward as a legacy because obviously the original.
And then our founding uh Mary is it the Marist are all run by Mary, Mother Mary, and she's all about compassion and empathy and love, right? So that's pretty much, I would say, is the foundation of the school is to make sure that our students know that they are all that we're family, that there's this unconditional love and acceptance, and we've grown a lot in that actually, and I'm so proud of that because as the years have gone by, we are becoming a little more inclusive and inclusive in many ways, right? Where I don't feel that we were as inclusive, not because we didn't want to be. I just think that subjects didn't come up, right? Things
Hmm.
weren't talked about. And as the years have gone by, are coming up, and we've done a really nice job of saying, like, this has to change. This has to change. We have to become more inclusive. We have to be more open. Because if we are of love, then we are of unconditional love, right? And we're
Hmm.
gonna call each other family, then the family has to be an unconditional family. We can't say your family only if, right? So I think again, I owe that to the brothers because the brothers were the first ones to say inclusion has to be included in there. We have to be an inclusive, all
I mean,
supportive.
how old is the school? When was it founded?
In 1958.
So can you imagine in that climate to be that forward thinking? Because what you're talking about now is really modern value. It's a very much 2023 discussion that we're having,
That's
but
correct.
it's rooted in this very simple uh, plan, which is love yourself, love the people around you, take care of those people around you, and become the best version of yourself, so that those things show. You have to show it to the community because what I found is that
Right.
the folks from Columbus they're a big part of the community here in Miami, enormous part of it.
Yes, because that's exactly what the point is what are we educating for if not to make our community better, right? Is to
Right.
put out there exactly what we're talking about, which is men of God, men of the community, men of service, and that you're going to be proud of, that you're going to look at it and you're going to be like, yeah, no matter what they do, because they're doing good. They're everybody that goes to Columbus knows that what do we want from you is to be better, is to always choose good, right? And to go out there and pass it on, pass on what we've taught you. Um, we're big on community service, and we even have a time in school during the year where the whole school is doing a service. Um,
Really.
so, yeah. So
So
we
it's cohesive. It's everyone involved towards one
everybody
goal.
one goal. We all go
Wow.
that day, and everybody is out doing a certain a different service job. And so that's how important, and if we have so many different clubs, and a lot of the clubs have to do with service, going out and doing certain services. So I think that's important. I think it's important to teach our youth, anybody, that service is super important. It's one of the things that we do, that that I do with my guys, that we go for blue missions, and we do all the water mission trips. That's big for Columbus too. Who started that? A Columbus guy.
That's that. Can you wait? Talk a little bit. I know about this because we know each other, but talk a little bit more about your blue missions so that everybody can hear about that.
Yeah, Blue Missions is Miami run, and it's run by a Columbus alumni, Danny, and he started this, this small little mission of providing water to certain areas. For instance, when I go, it's always a Dominican Republic, but they're found in many other places. And it's he's done a phenomenal job with his crew, and it's grown, and it's a beautiful mission, because they do two missions. It's either going to be a water mission or a sanitary mission, right? And uh, it's we're not the only ones that do it with them. They have a lot of schools that do it with them. They have a lot of outside people that aren't even affiliated with schools that also go on mission trips. And they go, and the last one that I did sanitary, which was building the outhouses for them. But the one before that, I went and we did the water projects, and we gave water to 250 people. And we, connected the pipes, and we went up in the mountains and ran the pipes from the water source. And we got to see the people of the community get their water. We were the third, because you go in tiers, and we were the third one, which was finishing the project. And it was beautiful to see the community come together and actually have running water. These are people that have to go up the mountain and do a good maybe 5-7 mile hike to get to the water and then come back. And as you know, a lot of times it's the women and children who do that. So the fact that they actually had a source that the water was coming from and running, and the pipes running to them, that's an amazing thing. So
Yeah,
Blue Mission
that
is
sounds
important.
amazing.
Yeah.
I think the missions are important. I think that they put into action the ideals of humans wanting to connect with other humans.
Yes,
I think it's
definitely.
great that you're being a science teacher, and water is probably a big part of your curriculum even before
For
you
sure.
went into the oceanography side of it. Our ecology is all dependent on that water cycle and how it relates. So you
And
really
how,
were able to connect the dots.
yeah, and how much of a true minority we are, how much of the majority of the world doesn't have clean running water, number one. And then my favorite part of the whole mission is I go with my students. So to watch my students work, because they work hard. We're dredging a hole as tall as I am, with our hands, with a pick, with a shovel, because the machinery can't get up there. So these boys work for hours and hours, all day out there, and it's beautiful because you get to see the human side of them. That's really where I bond with my students, because we're doing the mission brings us together. We're forever blue, is what we call each other. We're forever blue.
Wow.
That's it. That's how it is it's the epitome of connection, because it is it is a connection that you can't, like, nothing else can get any closer to that, right? You're doing a job together. You're not feeling good. It's very hot. You're hungry. You're tired, and you bond because you're doing this mission that you both believe in, and that you see together, and the beauty that you see, you're seeing it together as well. So it's incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, women bond when they hug, and all that oxytocin will flow. But boys and men bond when they have a problem to solve and they need to be shoulder to shoulder, and hard work
Absolutely.
is involved with it.
Yeah.
And that's really how you break down those main barriers and really get a chance to you crack them open, and then you can say, okay, well, that tenderness that's deep inside of you is not a weakness. It is the compassion that you feel for men. And
Right.
all of these boys who grow into men and then they want to be fathers. And I can tell you, I'm a father, and I will to forever defend that men are good in this world, that they are important in this world, and that fathers need to be celebrated because they have their purpose in the world, that they are able to build. We want a better society. You need to have these strong men. Strong men are in touch with their lives. Hey, let me tell you something. Every time I talk to teachers, I'm shocked at how much passion is inside of them. You've done this for 29 years. How are you still so passionate about teaching?
Yeah. I think that's the again, that's the I think every teacher feels this way. I think for you to be a teacher, you have to feel that way. Um, not that there are days that I'm sure that, like me, every teacher is exhausted, and sometimes you want to give up, and sometimes we don't see the fruits of our labor. It's not often that we really get to see that, and when we do, it's years later, right? It's not instant gratification. You know, the instant gratification is when we're in class and one of those boys says, "Yeah, I got it," and you're like, "Yeah." you, you know, that's the instant gratification, right? You're like, "Yes, he got it." Um, but really, the true blue gift is 20 years later, right? When you run into them. So I think, I don't know where it comes from. I think it's something that it's just, it's in you, right? I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to do anything else, to tell you the truth. If I wasn't teaching, I would be lost because I don't know. It's just something that I love to do. And I love it because I think it's important, right? It's not
Yeah,
teaching,
of course.
it's educating, right? It's educating. And I tell them, it's one of the things no one can ever take away from you. And it allows you to make better decisions and better choices in your life. And eventually we're all going to get old, and I want to leave knowing that somehow I've made this a better place, right? Because my boys are left behind,
Yeah, you're
right?
not in danger of
Yeah,
falling short of that goal. Okay, after all this time and effort, if I
yeah,
can, if I let me, let's unravel the secret sauce a little bit more, because right now boys, especially in education, are getting a bad rap. They're talking about how they're falling behind. They're going
right.
into college at lower rates. Some of this is anecdotal. Some of it is true fact. Just less enrollment in colleges. I know that the men who graduate from Columbus, you have a very high rate of secondary education. They walk in, they go to university, and some cases even beyond that. But what is it about your particular school that's able to generate this type of mentality without creating such a grind or making them feel like they're so far behind?
Yeah. I go back to the faculty. I go back to I think that it's always from the core out. Like, you can look really pretty outside. We can look really pretty. We can make Columbus look really nice. We have Columbus is a beautiful school, and high tech, and all the everything you can think of that you would want a school to have, including like the beautiful gym that it has. It's beautiful. It's a
Right.
beautiful school. But if the core of that school isn't 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 as how can I say it, as dedicated to the mission, or a believer of the mission, the school wouldn't have that secret sauce, right? The students wouldn't feel that they want that, or they want to go to those schools, or that, you know they want to get better, or they want to grow. And I think that we have a very strong core. I really think that we have such a great faculty.
Let me peel that back a little bit further too. I mean, do you wind up having faculty meetings that you sit down and detail this ideal, or is it just understood because of the culture, or do you work hand in hand with your peers and say, "Now we're
No,
falling short. Let's make it better," or how do
no.
you keep each other in check?
I think it takes a lot of work. I think it takes a lot of transparency. I think it takes a lot of work. I also think it takes a strong administration that also bleeds that out, right? And that believes in you and supports you. And we have that. So I think it's layers. It's a lot of layers. So you have the brothers, which are the foundation, and then you have the administration, and then you have us. And we're just lucky that all three layers bleed into one another. There's no such thing as perfect, right? I don't even think we want perfection. I think perfection is false. But there's always constant evolving, always constant reflection. How can we do it better? We take surveys, we ask the students what they think and feel. I don't remember being asked what we thought or felt when we were in school. So we survey them, we survey the parents, we survey teachers. We constantly are reflecting, reassessing, and realigning, and that's really important. And I think we keep each other in check. For instance, my science department, our department is an incredible department. We collaborate together. We make sure that, for instance, when I teach environment with one of my coworkers, and him and I are constantly, what chapter are you? Oh, okay, when are we? Our tests are the same. We are constantly
Hmm.
working. We have PLCs, we have professional developments, we have a retreat once a year. We have a retreat together before we start work as a faculty
Wow.
retreat day. I mean, we I can go on and on. We're involved in encounters. When we do encounters and retreats, the faculty is allowed to participate. Um, we have a youth group that is an incredible youth group every Tuesday, and that youth group has grown immensely, and it's a great place for our youth to get together and meet each other, have the same type of beliefs and understandings and conversations and talks. And there's so much support in that school.
Wow.
And again, it has to come from inside. So I think that the secret sauce is that our inside is so solid, and then it goes out, and then it
It's
goes out.
another example of foundational strength from core values, but
Right.
then walking the walk that you would like to see. And so, because you're doing this professionally, it bleeds into what the students see. You're
Yeah.
modeling that for the students. They may not be part of any faculty meetings. They're certainly not a part of when you're discussing something with your peer, but definitely it shows. You can see it.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why do you?
No, I'm sorry.
No,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that again. I want to make it clear that we are far from perfect. We are far
Sure.
from even sometimes knowing like what to do next sometimes. But I think it's to show up, right? I think that the most important thing is time and time again. What I've always seen in my 29 years of working at Columbus is that we always show up for each other. We always show up. Somebody's got to we show up. Somebody needs we show up. And, there's no doubt that we are there for each other in all aspects. And I think that that's what our kids see. I think our students see that we show up for each other, and I think that's important.
That's a big part of it. I mean, we haven't discussed curriculum. We haven't discussed what's happening in the classroom as far as the material, the
Yeah.
syllabus, or any of that stuff, because so much of what you're saying is the education. In many ways, I sit back and I say that true education is skill building, and that skill building has many layers. The
Yes.
ability to test well, the ability to read from a book, and even the ability to get through high school unscathed is a skill. But there are many life skills that you hear anecdotally that somehow teachers are repressed from doing that in the classroom because from somewhere else this other edict is coming, and there's always a narrative about the political discussion that goes back and forth. But when I talk to teachers, and I talk to a lot of them,
Right.
they're represented by people like you. And that's why I don't want to come off as Pollyanna when I'm saying these things to you, but I think it's important to showcase the fact that teachers
Yes.
are not sitting around worried about politics of life. They are very worried about the children in their classroom, the young
Well,
men in your case in their classroom.
no, because I don't think there's a teacher in the whole entire world that doesn't worry about their students as their own, like their own kids, right? So I think we worry more about making sure that our kids are good, they're feeling good, they're happy, their heart is feeling safe, that they're not anxious. I mean, look at the teachers, how they get whenever the testing comes around during the year, right? I
Yeah,
think teachers are more anxious than the kids because they're anxious that their kids are going to feel anxious. Not They're not anxious that they're not going to do well. Right? No, they're anxious that their kids, if they don't do well, they're not going to feel good. So I think that all teachers are constantly worried about how their kids are feeling and what they can do to make that class as beautiful as they can so that the kids don't feel the anxiety that everything else is trying to get in, right? The outside is constantly in a hurry, anxious, trying to beat something, trying to change something. And in the meantime, the teacher's trying to stay consistent and grounded so that the kids don't feel that way. Now, I multiply that by 30, right? You're trying to do this for 30 kids. If you're in high school, you're doing for 30 times 5 or 30 times 6, depending on how many classes you have.
right,
Um, and then you're trying to also keep them from feeling anxious of how unsafe it is out there, right? And all the other things that they're going through that sometimes we don't know, right? We don't know the full story from whatever they're going through at home.
right.
We are their safe space, and our hands are tied because we can't say this and we can't do that and we can't. So we're I think a teacher's an amazing rock star because they're trying to do a job, right?
Right.
They're being all these things while their hands are tied and being told what they shouldn't and should do. And somehow they manage, right? Somehow they manage. When my kids go to school, I don't even question it. I'm just like, thank you so much for taking care of my kids. Like for keeping them safe and for everything you do, right? I never
Oh, yeah.
question the teachers, but I come from a different time, and I also come from a time where teachers were revered, right? You respected teachers. It didn't matter what teacher you were. It could have been you're my yoga teacher, or you're my teacher at school, or my ballet teacher, or my music teacher. It doesn't matter if you were a teacher. I was to respect the fact that you were here to teach me something, right? And I don't have to know how you're going to do it or where you're going to do it, or I just know that you're going to provide that, and I have to trust that. And I really do think that at the bottom line issue is trust. There has to be a trust between the parents and the teachers. And there has to be a point where we have to be allowed to do our job, and trust that we love your children enough that we're going to give them what they need, plus all those other things, you know? And I
Well,
think the
I would imagine you get that from the parents at I mean, this is a private school. To some extent, the parents know that. I think we're dealing with different parents too. The parents of today are
yeah,
vastly different than
for sure,
the
for sure.
parents from 30 years ago. I mean, it's night and day
I think
in many
we're
instances.
getting it, but I think we should. I think we have a long way to go. I think we have a long way to go. I think that even in private school, you feel Sometimes there is a trust issue. And I think it's just across the board, right? I think it's across the board. I think it's the way society looks at teachers. Um, I think that we've lost a little bit of the respect for teachers. And I think the teachers deserve to be loved and respected, and and given back the safe space that they give our children, you know?
I agree with you. Many of the uh, stories that I hear are teachers that want to change that narrative because the narrative is wrong. It's
Right.
it's just wrong.
Right.
And I think that communication, between parents and teachers has changed. Uh,
Yeah.
and I do think that a dialogue needs to be open in many ways. I think that teachers uh, provide a conduit to which parents can talk about the education with them. They're welcoming it. They want that sort of
Yes, definitely.
interchange between them, and I think it's hard to do. I mean, here, hold on. Let me. I want to backtrack a second because I just had a thought. You know my daughter Annabella, and
Yeah.
Annabella goes to Miami Art Studio here, and the principal there, Dr. Balseda, is amazing. He's a graduate of Christopher Columbus High School,
Ooh.
and he brought a lot of that into his career in education. And as he went up the Miami-Dade County public school system, you just couldn't take the Columbus out of him. And now, I see him. I have a relationship with him, not just because my daughter went to school there, but because I took the time to get to know him and his faculty. And
Yeah,
a lot of the things that you're talking about are echoed at Annabella's high school.
it's
It
great.
feels like paying that forward, that what you
Yeah.
started at Columbus paid forward in that way. And
Yes.
don't get me wrong. There's a lot of really great principals and teachers
Sure.
that they come from different backgrounds, but I do think that the thread, that secret sauce, that thread of
Yes.
working together and putting the children first makes a big difference.
That's
Hey,
incredible. It's beautiful.
is there anything about the narrative that people have about modern teachers that you would really love to change? If you were talking directly to politicians or without being political, I'm just saying, what
Yeah.
would you say? How would you change their minds?
I would say that I think the most important thing here, if I was talking from a public school system setting, is um, test, like let's say the FCAT and now the FAST. Um, it's not that we shouldn't have them; it's why do we have them? So an assessment is just that. An assessment is to assess where the child is, where he should be, and where do we want to get him to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the weakness? Where's the strength? And where do we need to work? So that the next following teacher knows, okay, I got you. We're going to work on this. That is what an assessment is for. That's why we call it an assessment. It's to be able to help that child in the places that he or she needs. That's it. Not for whether we're going to pass them or not, not for whether we're in an A school or B school or D school, not to judge a teacher. Because what about a teacher who's in a lower income uh, school, who doesn't have the tools and the things that she needs? What about those children who are coming to her that don't know how to read or write, right? Um, who don't travel, who are not exposed to the world around them as someone else has that ability? Is it fair to ask them the same questions? Is it fair to ask them to be at the same place, or worse, is it fair to judge that that's an F school, and how much does that do for them? Let's talk about positive thinking. I'm going to an F or a D school, so what happens to that school when no one wants to go to that school? It's like a vicious cycle, right? It's like a vicious cycle. So I think that an assessment should be placed, but to just assess the child and move on, right? And be able to help him or her. And then the second thing I think is how are we looking at our teachers, right? These are teachers that are not only being everything we're talking about, but these are teachers that are spending their own money, as it is, we don't make enough money to buy things for their class, or asking parents to bring stuff to their class. Where's the funding for them to have enough of what they need for them to teach in their class, right? Where's the funding for the schools to be provided all the tools and necessities that they need for the teachers to be successful and for the students to be successful? Why aren't we talking about that? I go to some of the schools and they look like they haven't been painted in the last 30 years, you know? And again, I say this, not that not that the outside, we talked about Columbus being a beautiful school. You still need the core. But boy, wouldn't it be nice to come in and not feel the anxiety that you don't have what you need in your class to provide your students with the things that you need to provide them with. And then on top of that, you're dealing with the fact that you have a society that thinks that teachers are not working enough hours, not doing enough. Oh, they have the summer off. I hear that all the time. They have the summer off. Right. And what a lot of people don't know is these teachers have 2 or 3 jobs. They're not just going to school and working. They're not just doing all these things that they need to do to prepare for the next day, the next week, the next lesson. They're then leaving work and working another job, and some people are working 2 jobs. Those are things that people don't know. To then come in the next morning and be nice and fresh and ready to deal with 30 students, and all at different levels, right? All
Right.
at different levels, all different personalities, all different, maybe some type of a learning disorder, right? That they have to deal with. We're not even going to talk about my favorite teachers in the whole entire world, special ed, right? We're not even going to go there. How much how much they have on their plate and how much they do. I mean, my hat off to them, right? My hat off to them. I mean, they're like, to me, they're my favorite teachers in the whole entire world. How special do you have to be, right? To have that ability, to have that, to educate everything, all different types of people, right? And
Right.
do
Yeah.
it good every single day, right? So we need to respect the teachers, and we definitely need to pay them more, and we definitely need to see them. We need to see them. We're not seeing them, right? We're not seeing
Yeah.
them. We're
Right.
missing them.
That's what this podcast is about. Maybe opening the eyes of people to one teacher at a time. But you represent a lot of people. There's a lot of folks like you.
Yeah.
I have an idea, and I lived this about 5-6 years ago. I've always had the thought that when I was going to retire from my business, that I would want to go teach, and that was just something I wanted to do. Now that came to me early in an opportunity when a friend of mine asked me to begin teaching for her foundation, and it also started early when I had some time and I taught at the school that my girls went to. But overall, I think if we have a teacher shortage and we have a lot of guys like me, gray hairs, that have been through it, that knew what it was like to respect a teacher, and that I tend to command a certain amount of respect as well, but through my actions and my compassion mostly. But my
Yeah.
experience, the fact that I'm older, even though I'm a new teacher, makes me I fit the mold versus changing the problem. I
Right.
maybe don't need to make as much as a 20-year-old.
Right.
I maybe don't need, I may have a little bit extra time. So my time is managed a bit differently. And and I do think we need to bring more men back into teaching.
I
So
agree.
a lot more men so that
Yep.
there can be a better balance and that energy can be what you're talking about, which is
Yep.
that both of those aspects can be represented in the life cycle of students. But I would challenge many of these parents to pick up the mantle and come in and fill some of these positions, even if it's just substitutes.
100%.
Oh,
100%.
I like opening the classroom to the community, to the world, to see what is happening. I mean,
And what
anybody, you talk about special ed, but 30% of the students that I teach are autistic spectrum disorder. They're part of that ASD.
amazing.
And I happen to teach music to young kids, so it's a very equalizing subject. It doesn't show that they're behind as much. And in some cases, they're right on par with all the kids in those ages. And I feel so rewarded by what I'm doing that I get, I walk in from work not like it's a disaster and I need to rest. I come in rejuvenated about life with a positive attitude and more
Beautiful.
optimism, right? Bring
Right?
more optimism back.
Yeah, I agree. It's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's the way. Wouldn't everybody want to feel that way, right? Wouldn't
Sure.
everybody want to feel? I think that that's why I say I don't know that I would know how to do anything else because I I love it. I get excited, actually. I get very excited to teach certain things that I'm going to teach or talk about certain things, especially with my SLS class. I could talk about so many different things. And environmental allows you to open so many subjects, you know?
Let me tell you one thing. I've had a wonderful conversation with you so far, and I'm hoping that we'll have more conversations and
Same.
maybe bring in some of your colleagues and we can talk together.
I
Sandy,
love it.
you're an amazing teacher. You're a great friend, a good mother. You really worry about the future of these young men that are in your care. What's your advice to these young men? You're going to talk to them because they're going to listen to this podcast. At least I hope they do. And what is your final bit of advice? You have a captive audience. Go.
My advice to them is for us to think different about men, right? For those people that think badly about boys and how boys are running behind and all these things that are not true. Um, you have to show up that way. You have to be okay being vulnerable. You have to be okay showing your heart, showing your emotions, communicating, and that is your superpower. That's your superpower because that's what we want, right? We want men that are heart connected, and that's where you need to come from. Is to always do a service from your heart, and to show up with your heart, and to be okay with that.
Well, your humility shows, it shows in truth, and your big heart shows.
Thank you.
So
Thank you so much. Thank you
we're
for
gonna
having
say
me,
good.
by the way.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for
Well,
having me.
oh, my pleasure. I knew you were gonna be a great guest, and I look forward to the next time we talk in person.
We will, and I'll bring a friend next time, I promise.
Oh, let's do that. All
Yeah,
right,
let's do it for
take
sure.
care of yourself. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you.